We'll be in John chapter 9. If you want to be turning in your Bibles or your electronic devices, it contains the Word of God. John chapter 9. We live in a time of first things. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, and the first heaven and the first earth are passed away, and the sea is no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride, adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of the throne saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his peoples. God himself shall be with them and be their God. And he shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. The first things have passed away." Let's pray. Our God and our Father, we're thankful for this, another Lord's Day. And we're thankful, Holy Father, for every blessing of this past week. We're mindful, Holy Father, that there have been tragedies throughout the world. Lives have been lost. But within our own number, Holy Father, our brother Jack has passed from this life. I pray that you would continue to strengthen and be with Sister Jamie and her family during this time. That they would look to you and look to your word. They would be comforted, Holy Father, by all those who would gather around them and shore them up during this time. Pray, Holy Father, that we all might be mindful of our end, that we might continue to prepare for the life to come. Thank you, Holy Father, for loving us. Thank you for providing the way, the truth, and the life in Jesus. Help us to become more like him. In Jesus' name, amen. In John chapter 8, as this discussion has concluded with Jesus and these various groups of people, the Lord has said some things that have upset a few to the point where they took up stones in verse 59, therefore to cast at him. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, or the marginal reading, and going through the midst of them, went his way and so passed by. Chapter 9, John picks up the narrative, and as he passed by, he saw a man blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither did this man sin nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. We must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work." When I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle and anointed his eyes with the clay and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. And he went away therefore and washed and came seeing. The neighbors therefore, and they that saw him aforetime that he was a beggar, said, Is not this he that sat and begged? Others said, It is he. Others said, No, but he is like him. He said, I am he. They said therefore unto him, How then were thine eyes opened? He answered, The man that is called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said unto me, Go to Siloam and wash. So I went away and washed, and I received sight. And they said unto him, Where is he? He said, I know not. Question, page 52 in your questions. Top of the page, a man born blind. Question number 1, location-wise, where had Jesus just been? Seemingly, where he had just been.
Temple.
In the temple. There are some who suggest some time passes between chapters 8 and 9, which is why I read the marginal reading, and going through the midst of them, Jesus went his way and so passed by. Because as 9 begins, and there was no chapter divisions when John wrote that, his next sentence is, and as he passed by. So you think about the situation Jesus has just left. What was people in the process of doing?
Stoning him.
Yes, I don't think they just intended to just pick up a few rocks, Brother Clay, and just, if they were lucky and hit him, good.
That's why your marginal reading, kind of why you wondered, was he in the temple? Would they have stones in the temple?
Or on the outside, where it's something, or they just keep them handy. Not sure where all the stones come from, but their tent would have been, the bodily damage to the point where, remember, if we just go back a chapter or two, Jesus didn't come up for a particular feast until it was halfway over, because the Jews there were intent on doing what? There's not, hadn't said how they're going to do it. They're just going to look for the opportunity, and then they're going to do it. So the Lord has left the temple. If these two events, him leaving and then passing by, are happening sort of back to back, he's been able to evade those who were going to throw the rocks because he hid himself, changed his appearance, did whatever was necessary where that didn't happen. And I'm kind of thinking, well, if somebody has just been in a process of stoning me, I'm going to be doing what in regards to that particular location? I'm going to be getting out of there. That's exactly right. I'm not going to be looking left or right. I'm just hightailing it. And yet, somewhere within this vicinity, as he's fleeing the stoning, here's this man born blind. And his disciples even notice the man, and it prompts a question from them. They ask a question regarding how long had the man been blind? Question number 2. Since he had been born, so we'll note that later in our study. Never seen a thing. Rabbi, what's the word rabbi mean? Teacher. Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents? So question number 3 is, what assumption did Jesus' disciples make regarding the man's blindness?
Loaded question.
It was a loaded question?
Loaded question,
Someone sinned.
phrased such that you had to accept one answer or the other.
Tell me again.
It was a loaded question. It was asked such that the question was says, who sinned, this one or that one, as opposed to neither of above? Not making sense.
Made neither of the above. Let's ask the question this way.
It's like, when did you quit beating your wife? That kind of question.
Okay. In regards to this man's blindness and the thought processes of the day, if a man was blind or a man had something wrong with him physically, something was wrong with his mind, her mind, so forth and so on, the conclusion quickly drawn about that person was it was a result of his sin. That's the question. Is he blind because of his sins? Or is he blind because his parents were sinners when he was born? Jesus answers and said, well, yes, Brother Clay.
There was another thing about that I didn't understand, because it says, that he should be born blind. You can't sin before you're born. So-
You can't sin before you're born. That's exactly right. So then even when we start thinking about some of the common errors in religion, why are supposedly in some religions infants baptized? Why? Because they teach they inherit the sins of their parents, born with sin, right? When Jesus answers the question and says, neither did this man or his parents sin, is he saying they'd never sinned before?
No, they're just saying they,
Not a result.
not.
That's exactly right. Oh no, all have sinned. He's saying his sins nor his parents' sins is the reason why he has this condition of being blind. And then Jesus states the reason why. The reason why this man was born blind was that the works of God should be made what? Manifest in him. And then he makes the statement, including his disciples, we must work the works of him that sent me. Well, who had sent him? God had sent him, John 3:16. We must work the works of him that sent me. And then he says, while it is day. Is he referring to it's day out there? Because he said the night cometh, and we know the night is coming about 5:30, 5:45 now. Night comes, right? Is he talking about literal day and night? So then that night represents what?
Yeah.
Death. That's exactly right. In fact, he says once death occurs, even in regards to the work that the Lord would do, once they crucified him, he would no longer be doing any of the works. In that time, he's going to be confined to paradise before his resurrection. But including his disciples, he said the time to work, the time to be busy in regards to the Lord's work, doing the things for which he says God has sent me, we need to do that while it's day, while we have life. Because then, look how he follows that up in verse 5. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. Well, light and life are many times connected. In him was life. Are you with me? And the life was the light of men. John chapter 1 and verse 4. Well, after he spoke those things, question number 5. What did Jesus do and say to the blind man? First of all, what did he do? Spit into the ground, and therefore he made sort of a mud or a paste, something along that line. Sounds a little gross. Took that, of course, again, if you're the blind man, do you know what he's doing?
No.
You might have heard him spit. Maybe. First thing that you're going to feel is what? A stranger that you only know as Jesus and a man currently, dabbing some kind of wet, yucky, mud stuff on your eyes. That's what he did. But then what did he say? Verse 7. Told him to go and wash. That's right, the pool of Siloam. That pool of Siloam, you may have a parenthetical statement, which is by interpretation sent. That has nothing to do with Jesus sending him. It was already called that before Jesus sent him. It's because of where the source of the water is. Then from where the source of the water is, guess what they do? They sent it, or it was sent to this particular pool. That's why it's called it. Go wash in the pool of Siloam. The blind man demonstrated what by going and washing?
Faith.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, was that your brother Doug?
No.
Okay, so I thought you meant.
Me and a bunch of others.
Oh, and brother Jim, well, that guy's, hang on just a second, I'll come back to you. Let's just stay with the narrative. Up to this point, Jesus concludes what he has said. There's no doubt that this man has overheard this conversation. If the disciples notice him, pointing him out to the Lord, and then asks a question in regard to him, doesn't say he's dead. So I'm thinking he's heard the question about his sins or his parents' sins, what the Lord has then said, what the Lord has said about day and night. That's concluded. And then Jesus has done what he did to prepare the mud, and now you have this stuff being applied to your eyes, and then you're being told to go wash in the pool of Siloam. I'm still with you, Brother Doug. And at that point in time, that man sat. What's going to happen in regard to his blindness?
It's gone. He can see.
Huh?
He
If
can
he just
see
stayed right where he's at.
after he washed.
We're not washing. Jesus applied the mud to his eyes. He said, you go wash in the pool of Siloam, and the man just sat.
Still blind, yeah.
He's going to stay blind. So as you pointed out, what it required for him to get up
Yeah.
in his blindness, no doubt he's sort of familiar with, he's been here, he's been this all his life. People learn to find their way. It took faith for him to get up and to go. Next question, when the now seeing man was asked the first time how his eyes were opened, how did he refer to Jesus?
A man?
He did. He did. The neighbors see him in verse 8. You see that? They see him who they'd seen before. Now we have additional, not only was he a blind man, but because of his blindness and because he couldn't earn his own living, he's been begging. So he sort of would be very familiar to a lot of people regarding where he was, who he was, seeing him time and time again. And the question that is asked then, is this not he that sat and begged? He's not blind anymore. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about people that you know personally, are famous people that you've known through the years. Maybe they were even on TV. Maybe they were musicians and they were blind. I want you to think about somebody like that. We've got a couple of employees at Apple that are blind. They just come in with their dogs. And I'm going to tell you something about their facial expressions. It looks different than people who see. Oh, I'm not talking about the glasses sometimes that people have. I'm just talking just what that you're carrying a conversation with you. They're standing right across from you, but this is just all different. That was him. But he comes back, and he comes back what? So you know what else, besides seeing, you know what else has happened? His face looks different. Thus, when they began to ask the question, are you the guy? And some people were saying, well, he kind of looks like the guy. No, he's not the guy. He looks like the guy. And then he says, I'm the guy. We might know why there was that confusion based upon even what happened or would have happened within the face. He said, the man called Jesus made clay, anointed my eyes. He said, go and wash. I went and washed, and I received sight. And then they ask him what?
Where is he?
Where is he? What's his answer? I have no idea. At this point in time, has he seen Jesus? No. Keep that in mind. That's helpful later on. He has no idea what Jesus looks like. Any comments down through verse 12?
Yes, I thought about,
You're first.
and one of the things I thought about was the fact that we take this to its full extent. What we just talked about, the man had to go and wash to find or get his sight. God had given us a way to salvation through his son who died on that tree. If we just sit, never do anything we're told to do by God's word, to be obedient to God, be baptized into Christ, yet Paul talked about in Romans chapter 6. Then what happens? Nothing. You're not saved, you're not even close, because you haven't done anything to do with what God told you to do.
Okay, Brother Randall makes a timely remark. Might as well pause here for a second. Let's rethink again. The mud has been applied to the man's eyes. The Lord then gives the command to go and wash. He goes, and this pool of Siloam, before he ever gets there, it has just all kind of magical powers in that water.
No.
No, it's just water. It's just water sent from the source. So the healing from the water is brought about based upon the what of the man. The belief and then the obedience to go and wash. I'll come back to you. When Jesus said, "He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved." If we were in the building and I could sort of say, "You see this water here behind me?" Or let's just say we met like people did long ago and we're just out in the middle of nowhere, but we know where there's a river or there's a tank or something, and I pointed to any of those various bodies of water regarding the forgiveness of sins connected to the command, "He that believeth and is baptized," and I say, that water out there, this water back there, I'm going to tell you what, it's some magical water. That's some sin-forgiving water right there. You would say, you know what, you don't need to be teaching no more. Because that's just water. In fact, someone may say, "I just put it in there yesterday." Or that river, or that tank. There's nothing special about that water. But when one renders obedience to the gospel based upon the command that Jesus gave, and a faith and a belief in those commands, when they are buried in that water of baptism, Romans chapter 6, and raised from that water, the Bible teaches in regards to their sins, God has forgiven. Oh, there's so much more that we could say about that. Now they're added to the church. Now they're part of the saved. Now they have hope, so forth and so on. But it's a valid point. The power in that water was nothing to do with the water. It was based upon the faith and the obedience of the person doing what God commanded. And if you do not do what God commands in regards to that particular subject matter, you cannot be saved. Cannot. You're next, and then I'm coming to you, and I think you were first to begin with.
I just, in my mind, I made a comparison of his immediate reaction to that of Naaman.
Yes. Yeah, you can't help but think about Naaman, right? Naaman comes, Elijah says, "Go do what? Go wash in the Jordan." And he was just so glad to do that, right?
No.
Oh, no. Oh, no. He wanted an outward show. That's what people still want today. They're not content with just doing what the Lord commands or what the commands of the Lord's servant is. Go wash in the Jordan. Wow, river's back home, far greater than that. And then he has that servant. And what's the servant say to him? "Master, if he would have asked you to do some grand thing, you would have jumped at it and done it. What's the big deal to do this little thing that he asked you to do?" And how many times did he have to wash? You think he was clean on the 6th? The 6th?
No.
Absolutely not. Had he stopped on the 6th, you think his leprosy is gone? Absolutely not. The fulfillment of the command to go and wash 7 times. That's when it happened. That's a great comparison.
Interesting that Jesus did not ask him if he wanted to be healed. And he also didn't ask him if he believed.
He didn't ask him if he wanted to. He didn't ask him where his faith was at this time. Jesus, in essence, met him where he was. How much faith does this, staying with your point, how much faith does this man have at this point, if you want to kind of gauge it? If you were saying a little, oh, kind of quite a bit, or just a tremendous amount, where would you be? I'd be at a little. Enough to do what? Enough to go and wash.
Yeah.
It's going to grow, and that's what's outstanding about this example, is that within the story, within the narrative of this, his faith is going to go from a little to making a confession at the end that if you won't make that confession out of sincerity, you can't be saved. He understood in the end who Jesus was. Brother Jay?
Well, I can't help but linger on verse 3, but that the works of God should be revealed. You know, that's a huge lesson for us. When we're going through, sometimes I might know why I'm going through what I'm going through. There's going to be times I don't know why I'm going through what I am. But if I can keep this in mind, because so many eyes are on us when we're going through difficult times and how we react to that. This is huge for me to understand. It's for God. And I need to keep that in mind, how I react to my situation, so that the glory of God is shown. And so
It's a great point. If we think about this man knowing nothing about him, he's lived up to this point in his life in blindness, and not sure what's all gone through his mind, how easy his life has or has not been, so forth and so on. But all this is not happening sort of like by the Lord. The Lord didn't come to this point after concluding this teaching in the previous chapter, almost getting stoned, but that didn't quite work out because he hid himself. And then it comes out of the temple and just completely caught off guard. Here's this blind man. Right? No, because see, none of this is happening by happenstance or chance. The Lord is in complete control of all this. You want to back up a year, you want to back up 2 years, you want to back up 4 years and say, on that particular day, when you leave the temple and they're getting ready to stone you, what's going to happen next? He said, well, that man born blind is going to be sitting outside the temple. Now I'm going to stop and have this conversation with him, and I'm going to heal him. So that the works of God, you think about that. So now let's think about the witnesses that are going to see this. The witnesses of this blind man. What are you going to do with that, Jay? What are you going to do with that when you see that? You're going to basically say, you know what? I'm not going to believe that. You're going to go, listen, I may need to rethink how I'm living my life. Because obviously something special has happened here. What about the man? Was he ever the same? You said, well, no, he wasn't the same. You could see now. Oh, it's more than that. It's more than that. You don't come in contact with Jesus. You don't come in contact with the Word and stay the same. You can't. That's the power of the Word. Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Somebody else. Yes, Brother Jim.
Second point about verse 3, God didn't purposely make the man born blind such that he'd be available.
That's exactly right. Didn't make him, just like today. Those are just the result. If we might go back to the beginning, all that is a result of what? What happened in the beginning that took a perfect world where there would have been no blindness? That's exactly right. Sin entered the world. Any other comments down through verse 12? Sister Pat?
So this is where we're taught and read to be more like Jesus. And this was an opportunity for him to heal this blind man, and then so that the works of God could be revealed to others. And my eyes need to be open to opportunities when I'm with people in my everyday life where we live or amongst brethren to help them. Now, I don't have any healing powers, but maybe words of encouragement we can do, or do a deed to help them, physically. Opportunities are there probably every day if we just keep our eyes open.
I'm so glad you said that. Or we would have passed over that, and that is just too important. You said probably the opportunities are there every day if we just what? What's the last thing you said?
I don't know, look for it.
If we look for it. the Lord is leaving the temple, and what had just about to happen? And we said, more than likely, if that was you or I, we're doing what? And when we're hightailing it, what about that blind man? That's exactly right. Sister Nancy, I'm gonna get that right today. For surely last week, but your sister Nancy this morning. That's exactly right. What do? We overlook the opportunity. And you know why we do? Because we are in such a, that's right, Sister Kathy. Such a hurry. I'm not saying that we don't have busy lives, but all the while we're living our lives, we need to be so aware of what's going on around us so that we don't overlook opportunities to help someone who is spiritually blind. You see, the light of life now is us. Jesus said, I am the light of the world while I am what? In the world. Well, now he's no longer in the world. He's left who behind? Us. And we are to be, Matthew chapter 5, besides salt, we are to be light. So we are to reflect, we are to be more, the more we're like Jesus, how will our light shine? The more we are, the brighter. And when our light shines, it offers life to the seer. That's exactly right. They're able to see the light in us. And now if they will believe, life there becomes life eternal. It may have very little to do with this life here. In fact, life may get more difficult for some people when they commit themselves to the Lord, depending on their situation. But not eternal. Very good. Brother Darrell.
You know, there's a second part to that too, in terms of looking for opportunity. Imagine this man born blind that's been sitting there every single day. The only way he can live is by the generosity of others. And maybe people get in the habit of, okay, I'll give him a shekel here and there, or what have you. But we get so used to things. We get so used to, the everyday that we stop seeing things the way they are. We might have somebody around us that, they've had a physical problem for so long that we just don't think about it much anymore. And the danger is we become callous to the needs of others because we've just seen it for a while.
So the danger is we can become callous and overlook these things. May I suggest to you that if it is our purpose to be more like Jesus, and we are to serve as the Lord did, then a part of our daily prayers, sincere, this is what I want to do, God. I want to serve others. And that becomes a part of your life. You know what you're going to end up doing? You're going to end up serving others. Because you know what's going to happen? Opportunity after opportunity is going to present itself. And you are not going to be too busy. And you are not going to overlook it. And you are not going to be calloused. That's found within the divine promises of God. But I preface the whole thing that you want to do it. You're sincere when you say you're doing it. And it's not something that you thought, you know what, every New Year's Eve, I'm going to make the resolution. This year I think I might try to serve a little better. It's not going to be like that. That stands so opposed to all my heart, all my soul, all my mind. Those opportunities don't come for the people who say some, and some. So see, it's just an inspection we make within our own lives. We all know how we're living our lives. I do. I know what goes on. You don't. You don't know everything. Kath and I are with each other more than anybody else, and we still don't know everything about that. We talk about these things all the time. And we know the promises that are available when the sincerity is there and the commitment is there. We know. We know what will happen. And the opposite is true as well. Brother Jerry.
Yeah, the comparison of the light, it made me think of humans in this world whenever we're in a situation where it is just pitch dark. We're walking through the woods or the countryside, and you can't see nothing. You don't really realize that, you keep saying to yourself, I'm not lost, I know where I'm going. And then when you finally realize, man, I am lost, I don't have a clue which way I'm going. And then you see a light, first thing you do is go to it. And that's where we are spiritually. You're not gonna go to that light until you realize that you're lost.
Not gonna go to the light until you realize you are lost, that you are in darkness, until you come face to face with what sin truly is, and what it's doing to you. They bring to the Pharisees, verse 13, him that aforetime was blind. Well, this ought to help. They're the religious leaders. Now, it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. And again, therefore, the Pharisees also asked him how he received his sight. So maybe if you like to write your Bible, you may put a number 2 there, because this is the second time he'll be asked. He said unto them, you put clay upon my eyes, and I washed, and I see. Some therefore, the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath. But others said, how can a man that is a sinner do such signs? And there was a division among them. They say therefore unto the blind man again, what sayest thou of him, in that he opened thine eyes? He said, he is a prophet. The Jews therefore did not believe concerning him that he had been blind and had received his sight, until they called the parents of him that had received his sight, asked them, saying, is this your son, who you say was born blind? 2 questions. Is he your son? Was he born blind? And how then doth he now see? Question number 3. His parents answered and said, we know that this is our son, and we know that he was born blind. But how we now see it, we know not. Or who opened his eyes, we know not. Ask him, he is of age, he shall speak for himself. These things said his parents because they feared the Jews, for the Jews had agreed already that if a man should confess him to be Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. Therefore said his parents, he is of age, ask him. Question number 8, what day was the miracle performed on, verse 14?
Sabbath.
It was the Sabbath day. That's exactly right. He's asked a second time. He tells them how it was brought about. And verse 16 says that some said this, others said that. So the result was there is division. Not the first time we've seen that. Already a couple of times in the Gospel of John. It'll happen again after this. Well, question number 9. What did the man call Jesus when he asked, what do you say about him since he opened your eyes? He was a what? He was a prophet. Was he right about that? Oh, he was so right. He didn't know how right he was. Let me remind you. And Jehovah said unto me, they have well said that which they have spoken. Children of Israel, what they said after God appeared on the mount, what they said. Don't let that happen again. We're too scared about that. He says, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren. You're going to ask in a moment, where am I? Deuteronomy 18, 17, 18, and 19. I'm in 18 right now. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto me, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which each shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. Deuteronomy 18, 17, 18, and 19. I want you to listen to the latter part of verse 18 again. where he says, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. That is the prophet with a capital P. In John chapter 14, Jesus speaking, following his conversation with Philip, where he says, he that has seen me has seen the Father. Listen to what he says. Believest thou not that I am in the Father and the Father in me? The words that I say unto you, I speak not from myself, but the Father abiding in me doeth his works. How do we define a prophet? One who what? A mouthpiece for God. God speaks to the prophet speaks to the people. You can tie Deuteronomy 18 to John chapter 14 and verse 10, and when this man said, he's a prophet. Well, it could have been capitalized there, but he's just thinking that so far he's a man, but also he's got these kind of abilities, prophetic abilities. He's a prophet. See, his mindset is starting to change. Well, what's changing about him? Well, first of all, he's seen. And he also knows something about blindness that he's going to comment on next week. He's going to comment on that. He's going to know this, well, we'll know next week. They said, therefore, to the blind man, what do you say? He's a prophet. Well, the Jews said, okay, sounds good to us. We accept your word. No. So where's his parents? We need somebody else to talk to. His parents come. The question is this, is he your son? What do they say?
Yes.
Yep. Was he born blind? What do they say?
Yes.
How did he receive his sight? What do they say?
They did
They did this.
They don't know.
I don't know. Well, let's be a little kind here. Does the Bible say anything that his parents were anywhere around the temple and the beggar and walked with him to the pool of Siloam? I mean, watched all these things. Does the Bible say anything about that?
No.
No, so you could think for a moment, well, I mean, there's some truth to what they said from the standpoint of we didn't see it. But by this time, if they've had any conversation with him, what would he have told them? A man called Jesus told me, put this, and go, and I came back seeing. But all we have to do is kind of continue to read in regards to why they answered the way they did, because John records that these things said his parents because they, what the Jews? Feared. They were afraid. They were afraid. You know, fear is,
That's one of the things I was mentioning, the fact that the Pharisees were using blackmail. He could make the parents do what they wanted him them to say. They didn't want to hear the truth, so they were afraid to be thrown out of the temple or out of the, and that was something that was just beyond Hebrews' desire. But that's blackmail from my point of view. In fact, they didn't want them to tell them the truth.
so if we're agreeing that they probably didn't see the thing happen, but then they now have some knowledge, maybe firsthand knowledge of how it did happen. But they also know how the Pharisees feel about Jesus. They've already made the statement, listen, if you confess him, what does that mean? Does that just mean, I believe in Jesus, but I'm headed to the ball game on Sunday. I'm heading out to the golf course. I gotta go fishing. Is that what it means to confess Jesus?
No.
No, we know it's more than that, right? It's a life lived in obedience. I'm a disciple of Christ. I'm becoming more like him. I want my light to shine brighter and brighter. So, if you say you're one of his, what are we going to do to you? You're out. We're keeping you out. There was going to be a cost, which is why you even have teaching where Jesus says that we need to what the cost before. We need to count the cost. Because the world in which we live still uses the adversary. Let me put that more specifically, uses people in the world and fear to cause us, if we're not careful, to cower and not confess. Is that right? You know what they needed? It's the last thing I'm going to say. I think that talks a little bit. What they needed was moral courage. I'm gonna give it to you. Hang on. You know what you and I need? We need moral courage. When Peter wrote 2 Peter chapter 1, he said, yea, and for this very cause, adding on your part all diligence in your faith supply. Remember what the next word? Virtue. You know what that word virtue is there? Moral courage. It's not courage that you're brave, that when something happens, you just have that ability to fight back in the moment. We know people sometimes just are born with courage. No, the courage there is when my faith is being questioned, or I'm going to have to pay a price because I'm a follower of Jesus. Me saying, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego saying, you do what you want. We're not bowing down to your image. Daniel saying, I'm going to keep praying. You know what that is? That's virtue. That's moral courage. That's strength for your faith in God when tested. That's it. You know what his parents didn't have? They did not. They did not have virtue. And that's where we're going to leave it. Right? Thank you for your good comments and for your attention. We'll pick up and see if we can, I'm sure, complete the study of the man born blind. The week from today, Lord willing.